there, Party Turtle here. So I was playing Rocket League the other day, and I was getting beat pretty badly in a 1v1 match. It seemed like every time I hit the ball, my opponent knew where I was going to hit it and was right there waiting. But I've also had games where I was the one who was at the right place at the right time. In those games, I just knew what my opponent was going to do next. I began to contemplate this ability to read your opponent. What is it exactly? Is it luck? Is it the power to manipulate time and space like Baby Yoda? Well, clearly not. Like most things in Rocket League, the ability to predict your opponent isn't magic, it's a skill. In fact, I think we can break it down into 3 separate skills. And that's what I'm going to do in this video. So let's go. Let's start with game sense. We use the term game sense to describe one's general awareness of what is going on in a game. Some people refer to this as Rocket League IQ. The more developed your game sense becomes, the broader your ability is to understand where all the players are, where they are going, and calculate the possibilities of what is going to happen next. Yes, this is a little like using the Rocket League Force, and we've all got some amount of game sense just from playing the game. But it isn't an exact science. Difficult to see, always in motion is the future. How does game sense help me read my opponent? Well, game sense can help you read your opponent because it tells you the most likely action your opponent is about to take next based on the situation they are in. Are you coming in for a quick challenge? Then your opponent will most likely hit the ball hard to try and get it past you. Is the ball headed for the net and your opponent is flying in from the side? Well, then your opponent will most likely clear the ball away to the side because they really have no other choice. Let's pause for just a second and take a look at this clip. After my opponent misses his clear, he circles and tries to block my shot on goal. My game sense tells me what is likely to happen next. He really has no choice but to dive in front of the ball to try to block my shot. If he doesn't, I just hit it in. So I wait for him to drive in front of the ball. I know he is probably panicking here, so he will be diving across at full speed and his momentum will carry him past the ball. And when he does, I score an easy goal. Man, I love a good mind game. So how can you improve your game sense and further develop this wonderful ability? Well, you can improve your game sense by spending some time in free play. You can play some ones if you're into that kind of thing. And you can start actively thinking about what is going to happen next when you play your games in ranked. Begin training your mind to always be predicting the possible futures in any given situation. Extend the play a few seconds in your mind. Push those mental boundaries. You can do it. Another key reading skill is adapting to your opponent. Let's talk about proclivities. All players have their unique Rocket League tendencies when they play. Does your opponent like to take the ball up the wall and then go for a ceiling shot? Do they like to dribble and then cut it to the side? Or do they like to carry the ball in their car and then flick it over you? As the game progresses, you will begin to see these patterns emerge in your opponents if you look for them. This is especially true in a 1v1 game, but you can also recognize these tendencies in other game modes. Well, except maybe in Rumble. I'm pretty sure no one can predict anything in that game mode. Let's look at an example. In this game, I had noticed my opponent was being pretty aggressive and challenged the ball early most of the time. So when I had the ball on this possession, I went for the quick hit past my opponent as soon as possible. And sure enough, my opponent turned to challenge early. I had already hit the ball over his car, and there was nothing stopping the ball from hitting the open net at that point. Improving your adaptation skills comes with time and experience, but as you play, look for patterns in your opponent's attack and defense tendencies. Even say it out loud if that helps you. 1v1 is a great game mode to practice this because you can observe one person's proclivities throughout an entire game. The third skill I'll discuss today is developing the ability to interpret your opponent's car language. Car language is made up of those subtle signals given by your opponent that forecast what they are going to do next. Did they slow their car down when the ball is about to bounce in front of them? Well, this might be a sign that they're going to try to hit a boomer half volley. Are they turning their car slightly when taking the ball downfield? Look out for a dribble play when this happens. Did they just zoom by the ball and boost full speed right at you? Well, this not-so-subtle signal is pretty easy to read. Let's look at an example of car language. Admittedly, this isn't an example of high-level Rocket League play on either side here. But watch, when Colonel Mustang finally gets his car behind the ball and goes for a hit here, he telegraphs it with his car language. He jumps before hitting the ball. This is a very clear signal that he is attempting a power clear here. It's a pretty clear signal to read, and I anticipate it with my block. As you sharpen your own mechanics, you will find yourself better able to read the car language of other players. If you take the time to learn more advanced mechanics, you'll be able to read more quickly when your opponent begins to execute them against you. Even just learning something well enough to pull it off once in a while in a training pack will help you here. Learning to do a flip reset shot in free play will help you recognize when your opponent is attempting one, even if you can't do it yourself consistently in ranks. And that wraps up our 3 skills for learning to read your opponent. If you made it this far, congratulations. You must be as interested in this stuff as I am. What did we learn today? Well, we learned to predict our opponent's future by improving game sense, adapting to our opponent's proclivities, and interpreting car language. All of these 3 skills overlap. Your game sense improves your ability to read car language, and reading car language improves how quickly you can adapt. But I find that separating them into these 3 categories helps me identify my abilities in each of these aspects and how much I need to improve on each. I hope doing this helps you improve as well. I'd appreciate a like and subscribe if you want more content like this, and let me know in the comments how you best learn to predict your opponent's next move. Well, I'm off to go grind some ones. So long.